Welcome to another OU Insider Under the Visor YouTube Live. My name is Brandon Drumm. I'm here with Parker Thune. We got Spencer Forsythe on the board, and we don't have any ad reads, but we're going to give you an ad real quick that you all need to pay attention to. Uh, but on this podcast, we're going to talk about 5 burning questions going into fall camp. What are the things that Parker and I think Oklahoma needs to address, or that maybe OU fans need to address? You guys put yours in the chat. If you have one in the super chat it up. Let us know in the chat and we'll read it off on here. Talk about some 25-26 recruiting stuff. And then we're going to kind of give you all the table, give you all the forum, and we're going to go from there. It's going to be a fan-induced chat, hopefully, by the end of this time. But first, Parker, go ahead. Promo OU Insider.
Well, if you didn't catch the news yesterday on our social channels, if you are a college student, this is directly applicable to you. You can get OU Insider for less than $1 per month.
Any college.
I was a college student not long ago. I understand how tight the budget is for many of you that are 18 to 22, especially if you're paying your own way. Trust me, I was there. It sucked at times, had many a struggle meal. But we wanted to make sure that all of you could have access to the market's best team and recruiting intel, regardless of what your budget looks like. So you can email us at ouinsider@rivals.com. We're going to give you a custom promo code that will get you a full year of OU Insider for $11.95. Flat fee, one time. You pay $11.95. You get access for a whole year. That's our gift to you. We hope you'll jump on board, as dozens of college students already have since we dropped that news yesterday. In general, I would recommend you subscribe to OU Insider, because even if you're subscribed to this YouTube channel and you keep up with the stuff that we're putting out, you're going to get a lot more behind the paywall, and it's going to be worth a few bucks a month. So jump on board over at ouinsider.com, whether you're a college student or not. And for the rest of the evening, throughout this live stream, if you have a question that you must have answered, drop a super chat. A super chat, if you're not familiar with it on YouTube, is a question or a comment in the comments section that comes with a monetary donation. You could throw in 99 cents. Some people in the past have been generous and have thrown in $100 or even $200 a couple of times. So regardless of what you want to contribute, if you toss in a super chat of any amount, we will make sure that we address your question or comment over the course of the show. You don't have to do the super chat. You could just engage via the regular chat, but we can't guarantee. There's going to be a lot of you. There are already hundreds of you on the stream. There are going to be a lot of you submitting questions in the chat, so we can't guarantee we'll get to everything, but we do guarantee that we will get to every super chat before we log off for the evening.
There you go. By the way, I don't wear Dallas Cowboy stuff. What are y'all talking about, man? Get that crap out of here. They said somebody saw Sooners Cowboy saw the star, and he assumed it was a Dallas Cowboys hat. No, bro, I'm repping OKC 405, always and forever, always and forever. And if it's the NFL, it's the Denver Broncos. Even though they suck as of late, it's always going to be the Broncos. All right, Horseface is my favorite quarterback of all time, outside of Peyton Manning. Anyway.
Horseface. We already have a super chat courtesy of Rogue Sooner, who asks, when do we get to see all the weight changes from the weigh-in Monday? I'd figure that the roster is going to be updated within the next few days here. That's always something they do at the beginning of fall camp, is they update the roster for us. And when we show up for our first practice availability, which is going to be tomorrow afternoon, they hand us all a paper roster, heights, weights, hometowns, all the good stuff. So I don't know if that's going to be updated that quickly, but we will get a roster handed to us, the latest version of the roster handed to us when we show up to practice tomorrow. So it's good to have football back. We're eager to dive back in. I'm excited to go cover some practices and eventually some games out there at Owen Field and the Switzer Center and all of the football facilities at the University of Oklahoma. So it's going to be a good time. We're looking forward to it.
Okay, so I do have a question. Yeah. David Stone's only 290 pounds still? I thought he was like 297, 300.
I doubt that, unless Schmitty really sweated some weight off him.
which is possible. It's been
Very
105 degrees
possible.
outside.
Very possible.
I know, bro. I'm not even joking. Like my boys have been practicing for like my oldest practiced for like 2.5 hours on Monday, Tuesday, and then they'll have a scrimmage every Thursday lately. I swear to God, I lose weight every time we're out there. I'm like soaked. It is so hot right now. It's crazy.
Yeah,
Anyways,
it's obscenely hot.
um, all right, let's do this. 5 things, Parker. If you were going to think of 5 things, and we'll just go back and forth, like your first and then my first and then second, anyways.
Okay.
Um, you can go first. What is your well, Mike Boganowski weighs 217. I just got text that. There you go. We were asked to put it live, so it is live.
Big Mike must be he must be
Big
watching
Mike's
right now.
watching. Anyways, what is your number? Let's start 5 being the worst, and then the biggest question for you being 1. So if I was the least of the questions that you have for OU heading into fall camp that we need answered, what would be the least biggest question
Can
for you
we
right
can we
now?
actually do that the opposite direction? Can we start with the biggest? Because I feel like those are the ones that jump to mind most immediately. Those are the ones that we'll want to spend the bulk of the time on. So
Okay, what is your
yes,
biggest burning
the
question?
biggest question to me, the biggest question to me, and this is not going to come as a shock to anybody, is well, and I guess I can take this a little bit more broadly than it needs
Mhm.
to be to encompass a wide variety of more specific questions. But does the offensive line look like we expect it to look like
Mm.
come week 1, which is Jake Sexton at left tackle, Garen Hatchett at left guard, Branson Hickman at center, Fabechi Wee at right guard, and Jake Taylor at right tackle? Is that the starting 5?
Mm.
Or is there a surprise or two thrown in there?
From what I was told just 2 days ago, there might be a surprise at right tackle. But go on, go ahead. I'll let you go. I will come in after
How
you.
much of a surprise?
I don't know that it would be a huge surprise, but I think it's one that OU fans are going to look at and go after what they witnessed last year and go, what the hell? I think you know
Uh,
it.
I'm
It
not
has
sure I
nothing
do.
to. Okay.
Elaborate, please.
Okay. So I talked to somebody the other day, and this person knows the offensive line better than almost everybody. And I have to tell you, I was shocked when they told me, just because we'd heard so many good things about Jake Taylor, right? And
Uh-huh.
this person confirmed Jake Taylor has taken a massive step. But the thing you have to think about is, what has Oklahoma built a lot of their um, draft off of over the last 4 years?
Portal
Like,
guys.
huh?
Portal guys.
There you go. So you have to look at it in those terms. And it's not like it's politics or anything like that. It's just that most people feel that Michael Tarquin is probably going to get the edge to start the season right now. Now, fall camp
How,
has to play out.
how do you feel about that?
How do I feel about that?
Yes. How do you personally feel about that?
I question it, but this person knows offensive line really, really well, and they're super smart about it. And I'm not going to argue with them. That's just not how I roll. You know this. I'll take them for their word and roll with it. He and I had a debate about it, but I uh, they essentially said that Tarquin is good enough that you can probably get away with it and not be that big of a deal. Like, I don't think
Okay.
there's that big of a gap between those two. But that shows you where Taylor was at to begin with. Like, he had some deficiencies, I guess, if you want to say. He was struggling to put on the weight that was needed, things like that, strength. But that's come along now. Like, that is there. Like, Jake Taylor is there now. You kind of saw it in the Alamo Bowl because he had a decent Alamo Bowl. He wasn't bad. And the spring, he took another huge step. The summer, he took another huge step. So there is a lot of belief that it's going to be a tight competition. But there's just this people's gut is that Tarquin's going to get the benefit of the doubt to start the season. That doesn't mean it's going to happen. That's just
Sure.
this person's gut, and they have yet to
And
be wrong. I
well,
have yet to see this person. You probably know who I'm talking about,
no, I think I do. And
and
it's it would not be unprecedented, right? Because I mean, and the best example of this, the most iconic example of this is Jonathan Alvarez starting at center at the beginning of the 2018 season over Creed Humphrey. Who would have thought that by the end of that season, that was ever a possibility, let alone something
yeah,
that actually happened? But it did. And Bill Bedenbaugh does have a tendency to lean on experience and err on the side of rolling with more experienced guys over
yeah,
inexperienced ones. That's interesting to me because I'll say exactly what I said in the spring. I thought Tarquin had no business playing right tackle. Not that he's not a good player, because I think he is, but
mm-hmm.
his only career starts at the collegiate level had come at that to that point when he played right tackle at USC had come at left tackle and left guard for Florida. So his entire collegiate experience had been on the other side of the line.
Mm-hmm.
And we saw last year that he just he was a little bit of a fish out of water on that USC line.
It's different. People don't understand. I the one thing I listen to Gabe Ikard and Teddy all the time. Like I love listening to them. I obviously I talk to Dusty all the time and ask him like when we're coaching, I always walk and ask Dusty like, okay, what's your thoughts on this? Because they like I know football. That's my job, but they know no football. Like that was like their life all the way into the pros. So like there's a different level of knowledge there. And so when I hear Gabe Ikard talk about the kick step being completely different, it feels different. It may seem like a small thing, but it's a big difference when you're kick stepping back with your right foot instead of your left foot as a left tackle, your outside foot. Your eyes have to be different. Your hand placement has to be different. Like it's different. And so that's where you're getting at. For those that don't understand, I just want to dive a little bit deeper into it with the fish out of water thing. If you've never done that before, I think was it RJ Jackson that was a left guard and then he played right tackle for OU in 2019 for a little bit,
I
right?
think you're talking about RJ Proctor.
Proctor, RJ Proctor,
Yes,
RJ
RJ
Proctor.
Proctor,
And he
yes.
played right tackle and he talked
And
about
it
how
was
strange it was for him, right?
and Tyrese Robinson did the same thing in
Yes.
2021
He
there.
talked about it. Yes, they all
Yeah.
talked about it. Cody Ford
Well,
talked
and it's
about it.
just
It's
like
just
for anybody
weird.
that's done anything athletic that requires, to an extent, some degree of ambidextrousness,
Mhm.
I suppose. Like
Was born ambidextrous, by the way. I looked into that.
yeah. Well, anything you do that favors one hand or one leg or one
Mhm.
almost just like state of mind directionally, it's very hard to mirror that, or it can be. It certainly can be.
Yeah.
I I think about it in baseball terms, because that was my primary sport growing up. I tried so hard for so long to get to the point where I could switch hit effectively, but
Mhm.
there was just some sort of mental block there where I just could not get comfortable swinging the bat left-handed and
Yeah.
mirroring everything that came naturally to me on the right-handed side on the in the other batter's box. And so, yeah, anything you do that is oriented towards one side or the other, uh, it's going to be tough, and it'll be varying degrees of toughness, just kind of based on the individual. But by nature, it's going to be a tough thing to be able to do.
You're full left-handed, right? Like just fully left-handed, everything, right? And left-footed.
No. So I throw left-handed. Everything that
Mhm.
requires one hand, I do left-handed.
Okay.
Swinging anything, I've always done right-handed. It just has always
Oh,
made
that's
sense to me to
interesting.
be leading with my left hand.
So do you shoot with your left hand?
In basketball, yes.
Oh, that's interesting. So I eat with my right. I write with I eat and write with my right. I do everything else left-handed, but I'm right-footed.
Yeah. Yeah, no,
It's
my
it's
my
weird.
left hand, left foot, I'm lefty dominant. Any like dominant hand,
Interesting.
dominant foot, it's left all the way for me.
We're a
I
bunch of
except that
weirdos.
yeah, I swing a baseball bat and I swing a golf club. what would conventionally be regarded as left-handed, but to me it's always, I'm sorry, what would conventionally be regarded as right-handed, but to me it's always seemed like left-handed because I'm leading with my left hand. So
Yeah.
that's just how
Interesting.
I conceptualize it, I guess.
So yours being the offensive line, I for me, I know, I know that Danny Stutzman's going to be the starter at Mike linebacker. I know that. Everybody knows that, right? Like we know that. In our mind, Kobe McKenzie is going to be his backup, right? Like I think we all think that's how this is going to play out, correct?
Sure. Yeah.
Okay. So the wheelbacker, I think that it stands to reason to
Yeah.
question: is
Yeah.
it going to be Lewis Carter? Is it going to be Kip Lewis? How about Jaron Kanik trying to play there a little bit? Maybe he plays a Sam. I know he played some of that during the spring ball. Um, I, there's a lot of variables there, right? And there's some people that feel like Jaron Kanik is just kind of, like you said, a fish out of water a little bit, like Tarquin was at right tackle at USC to start. But is he? Can he get it down to be that other guy? I mean, I don't. I think we feel, you and I feel, that Lewis Carter and Kip Lewis are going to be the guys, and we probably feel Sammy Omosigho and Jaron Kanik are probably going to be the sandbackers at this juncture. At least that's what it feels like, because Deshaun McCall is banged up. For those that don't know, I'm just going to
Yeah.
say it because it's out there. Deshaun McCall is banged up. Um, we don't know when he's going to come back. There's a chance he could be back for game one, because it happened a couple of weeks ago during workouts. That I'll just explain it to y'all. Just felt the pop, turned to the person next to him, said something feels weird, kind of kept going on it, and then realized it wasn't feeling like it should have been. So he got it checked. But they haven't really figured out if it was like completely cracked, if it, there's a lot of things that they haven't figured out. So he's just in a boot right now. And so there's that. Um, and there's a lot of depth there, Parker. I'm not worried about the linebacker spot. Whoever plays out of those six guys, you're not going to be in any problems there. Like I don't, or any
No.
big problems. I know that Kanik can get a little bit out of space sometimes, just because he overplays things. He sees things a little differently. I know Kobe McKenzie, he's now so much better in space than he was when he originally got to Oklahoma. He's lighter, he's faster, he's done everything he's supposed to do nutrition wise to keep his weight down and just be a better player. I just I want to know who's going to be the wheelbacker. Like that to me is just such
Yeah.
a big thing for some odd reason.
And I would be surprised if the answer isn't Kip Lewis, but then again, it's a meritocracy at a place like the University of Oklahoma, most of
Mm-hmm.
all in Brent Venable's own room. So if Kip Lewis isn't the best option at will backer through fall camp, well, he's not going to be starting. And I think he will be. Again, that's the safe bet,
Yeah.
but there is a conversation to be had there. And it's not just about who the principal starters are, right? It's about
Right.
who are the top rotation guys off the bench, the second team, because you're not going to be able to ride the same two horses at linebacker for 80 snaps a game. You're going to see
Mm-hmm.
multiple, and you're going to see them in varying rotations. Um, I would say the next big thing for me is who is the third wide receiver? Because
Mm-hmm.
this is a lot more interesting question than I think most anybody figured it would be at this juncture. Because look, if he's completely healthy, it's Andrell Anthony. You got Deion Burks and you got Nick Anderson in the starting lineup. Forget about that one, right? Like we're forget about those two, I should say. They're starters. You don't got to think twice about that. But Andrell Anthony's coming off a significant injury that required surgery. Jalil Farouk is coming off a significant injury that required surgery. Jaden Gibson is the other guy right there alongside those two that you would consider to be in contention for that third starting spot at wide receiver. So I guess that question kind of breaks down into several narrower questions, if you will. Is Farouk 100% by week one? Is Anthony 100% by week one? And if those dudes are 100%, are they still holding off
Mm-hmm.
Jaden Gibson? So that whole wide receiver three conversation to me is a very interesting one.
I mean, if I was going to guess right now, I'd say Farouk. Um, just because I did he have surgery? Like, was that like? Did he? I don't know. Did he?
I I thought he
Yeah.
did because he was on a scooter.
Yeah. I can't, for some odd reason, I did. I felt like somebody told me that he eventually didn't have surgery, but maybe he did. I don't know. Maybe I'm mixing him up with somebody else.
Yeah.
Um,
Anthony did. Anthony did because
yeah.
Venables said Anthony
Yeah, yeah.
had
Well,
surgery.
yeah.
I guess we never
Andrew,
found
we
out from
know
the
Andrew
horse's mouth.
Anthony did.
Yeah.
Yes. That's why he couldn't play in the spring. Like everybody thought he was going to be cleared to go by the end of spring, and he just had to get things cleaned up again.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'll guess Farouk. I'm not super confident in that. And here's why. I know people are in our comments are saying Gibson, Gibson, Gibson. And that would be a great pick. But in my mind, you have Anderson on the other side. You have obviously Burks. So like you go from like 6'4" to 5'9". That third guy to me needs to be kind of in the middle, like Farouk is, 5'11", 6 foot, 6'1" kind of guy. Just kind of be a tweener. Yeah, I guess it's great to have two big guys, but you don't want a bunch of guys with the same skill sets, right? I
Yeah.
know
Well,
Anderson
and
has a different skill set than everybody with his speed and agility and everything, but it still comes out looking like you just got big dudes out there.
yeah. And I think there are worse problems to have than just having big dudes out there, especially if they can run
No,
like
I
Nick
get that.
Anderson and Jaden Gibson can. To me, Andrell Anthony, like again, if he's healthy, he has the potential to be really, really special in this offense
Mhm.
because there's going to have to be so much attention paid to Burks and Anderson that the guy that is going to be the natural benefactor, again, if healthy, is the dude that was Oklahoma's best and most productive skill position player through the first half of the season last year.
Mhm.
So the guy, if he doesn't go down, maybe you don't lose to Kansas. Maybe you don't lose to Oklahoma State. We talked about Danny Stutzman's injury and the ramifications that it had on those two losses for Oklahoma. Don't talk as much about the impact that Andrell Anthony's injury had for that offense and having to replace a guy that was wide receiver one for Dylan Gabriel up to that point. But yeah, I think there are a lot of different permutations of wideouts that you're going to be able to trot out there. I love the fact that in what I would project to be the top three in Anderson, Burks, and Anthony, you have three guys that are very complete in their skill sets. They're
Mhm.
not just burners. They're not just chain movers on third down. They're not just guys that can work the intermediate. No, they're guys that can beat you any way they want to. They can beat you
Yeah.
with speed. They can beat you with ball skills. I I
Would you throw
think
Farouk in that category too? Because I would.
yes, I think what we've seen with Farouk is that he
He's not
operates,
consistent sometimes, though.
yeah, and he operates best with the ball in his hands.
Mhm.
And so you kind of got to create space for him, create opportunities for him. And if you can create that, he's capable of doing a lot. But I don't necessarily regard Farouk as the same downfield threat, I guess, that Anderson and Anthony and Burks are.
Yeah. So back real quickly back to the offensive line. What if I told you that I'm just about to drop a bomb on here?
Okay.
What if I told you I've heard some things because I can't confirm it. It's just kind of buzz.
Okay. That's probably good. You can drop that here as opposed to
Yeah,
behind the
I mean,
paywall at
I
OU
want to say
Insider.
it that way. I want to preface what I'm about to say. Disclaimer. But
Hearsay,
mm,
speculation, may or may not be true.
I would say it's speculative, but it comes from someone that I don't think I would speculate too much about. But again, I
Okay.
haven't confirmed it, so don't go run saying Drum reported this. I'm not reporting anything.
Gotcha.
Zero. Nothing. With Branson Hickman at center, with the fact that Garen Hatchett can play center, we know that. With the fact that you have Josh Bates at center, with the fact that you have some other guys that can play center, I guess Josh Sosa, like
Yep.
you got some depth at center.
BJ Brooks could play center. Yeah.
BJ Brooks can play center, though he's been kind of up and down this summer. I what if Everett ever decided to take a medical hardship this season? Would that shock you?
No, no, it wouldn't
Me
because
either.
I mean, look, if and I think that might actually be best for him just to save the year of eligibility
Agreed.
because there is no point in using it if Branson Hickman is going to be your starting center. And make no mistake, you brought Branson Hickman in to be your starting center. And so Everett's not going to be ready to go right when the season starts. It's going to be at least 4 or 5 games. And so you kind of have that 4 or 5 game window as your trial period. If you're confident that Branson Hickman's going to be that dude and he is the anchor that you need at center, yeah, just tell Troy Everett, hey, man, pack it in, come back next year, save that eligibility.
Mhm.
And I guess technically he can be your break glass in case of emergency guy because in this day and age, you don't have to designate red shirts prior to the season. You don't have to keep guys on the shelf. Guys can play 4 games and still take a red shirt, which I guess Everett has already taken a red shirt year. So he would have to, the max is 33% of the game. So he would have 4 games that he could play in and still be eligible for a medical hardship.
Yeah.
But in that sense, he could definitely be your break glass in case of emergency guy, where if for whatever reason you need to throw him out there down the stretch, either at center or at guard, you can. But if the 5 you trot out there in week 1, if that's the right recipe and that's working for you and you're protecting Jackson Arnold and you're
Mhm.
opening holes for the run game, then yeah, man, keep him on the shelf, bring him back next year with what, 2 years eligibility left at that point.
Yeah. I mean, I, again, this is just rumor right now. Like, it's just things you hear, and I'm just because so we're hearing it as a potential possibility. It's a potential possibility, which makes sense with his injury, right? Like, if you're
Yes.
coming back maybe by October or late September, and you're gonna, like you said, like you're sitting behind Hickman anyways, you might as well just go ahead and chill unless you are 100% needed, and then do it. I think it would be a smart move, but again, it's just a rumor, and it's just something to throw out there and a question to be answered at this point because we don't know what he's going to do or how they're going to play this thing out. He could come back sooner than we expect, and then it
Yeah.
becomes a battle, you know? So, well, I, I guess potential battle on paper, not so much really a battle, but
Yeah.
you get it. Um,
Next big question for you. What is it?
yeah. So this is going to be for you more than me because I'll let you answer this. Well, I
Okay.
guess it's for me too, but who will be the number 2 quarterback for the University of Oklahoma now that Casey Thompson's healthy? Because I will say this, the staff absolutely loves Casey Thompson. They love it. They love how smart he is. They love his acumen, his football IQ, his experience, all of that. He was brought in to
Yeah.
be the security blanket for Jackson Arnold before Michael Hawkins went off and just killed it in
Yeah.
the
And
spring.
well,
It's
and
like,
it's
no,
a very interesting question because yes, the answer for everybody in February was Casey Thompson. But Michael Hawkins has put together a really impressive spring and followed it
Mhm.
up with a really impressive summer. I
Yep.
was told today, I know that they've been on the practice field for 1 day, but was told he had a really good first day of practice as well. So the way I see it, Brandon, here's kind of how I play my hand if I'm Brent Venables and Seth Luttrell. Uh, let's say you get in a situation like you did in the BYU game last year,
Hmm.
where you lose your starter for a half.
You got to
And
play Thompson at that point, right?
yeah, I think it makes the most sense to play Casey Thompson because he's been there, done that before. And if you know it's only going to be 2 3/4 of this guy and you got to go get a win, I think Thompson is the guy you probably have the highest comfort level in falling back on. But let's say you lose Jackson Arnold for a month. Let's say he has a high ankle sprain or something, and you got to keep the wheels on the tracks during the throes of SEC conference play. I don't think anybody would question that Michael Hawkins offers you a higher ceiling than
Yeah.
Casey Thompson. And if you're confident that he's not going to be overwhelmed by the moment and that he knows the playbook, and that he's going to be able to make the right checks, make the right calls, see everything he needs to see on game day. Look, there are things in that Oklahoma offense that his athleticism is going to unlock that makes him far superior to anybody else in that Oklahoma quarterback room in a world where Arnold is on the shelf. So that's
Mhm.
kind of how I draw that distinction is if it's for a quarter or two, it's Casey Thompson. If it's long term, I think there's a good case for Michael Hawkins.
Yeah, I'm so interested to see how this fall camp plays out between those two. I think the staff is too, from what I'm hearing. They're stoked about it. There is a calmness compared to where they were even last year, as far as the quarterback room goes. Yeah, granted, they had Jackson Arnold. He came in. That's great, right? That's great. But outside of Dylan Gabriel and Jackson Arnold, now you're starting to dive into preferred walk-on territory as your third stringer outside of Davis Bevel, and I don't know that they felt they obviously didn't feel comfortable with it. Now it's more like you feel pretty good about Jackson Arnold. Though I will say this, I talked to somebody within the Switzer Center, and their exact words were, if Michael Thompson proves that he's better than Jackson Arnold, it doesn't matter how much hype Jackson Arnold's getting. It doesn't matter that he went to SEC Media Day. They're going to play the best player. Seth Luttrell is old school football coach. He cares little
Yeah.
about any
And
of
that's
it.
how it's got to be. That's
Yep.
how it's got to be. You're in the SEC now. It just means
So,
more. Best players got to play,
right.
regardless of how old they are or how much they have quote unquote earned or not earned.
Yep. Go
Couple of
ahead.
super chats. John
Yep.
May Myrick threw $20 our way. No question, just $20. Thank you. We appreciate it. Very, very appreciated. Tim Moore contributed $10 and asked, how does the rest of the 25 class round out? Well,
Mm,
really about three guys at this point.
that's a
Fasusi,
$10
Babalola,
question.
yeah, Christian
Literally.
Jones. Um, it's real interesting. I was ruminating on this as I was driving home from the radio station today. Real interesting how many OU Nebraska battles there have been on the trail these last
Hmm.
few cycles. That rivalry obviously no longer gets played every year on the field, but those two schools have gone up against each other several times in recent cycles and are doing it several times again here in the 2025 class. And you look
Yep.
ahead to 2026, there are some OU Nebraska battles brewing as well. So, uh, very interesting that there's that much overlap between a school in the SEC and a school in the Big Ten. I know they share some regional similarities. I know they're not terribly far away from each other in proximity, but I think that's cool to me that in some sense OU and Nebraska are still competing. But I bring that up obviously because of Christian Jones, but
You're
we'll all
beating around the
find
bush a
out.
little bit
We'll
with.
all find out this month. I should say we're not in the month of August yet. We're 3 hours away from it still, but the month
Mhm.
of August is where we're going to find out where Michael Fasusi's headed and where Andrew Babalola is headed. The best way I can phrase it right now with Fasusi, which is naturally, I mean, that's the one that everybody is most concerned about right now,
Correct.
most tied up in. Um, the position you're in right now, the position that Oklahoma's in right now, I should say, is the position you would like to be in 3 weeks out from decision day,
Hmm.
which we are. August 21st is decision day. We're 3 weeks to the day away from Fasusi's commitment. The position that Oklahoma is in today is the ideal one. Does that mean you get him? Not necessarily, but for the moment, OU still has the upper hand.
Yeah. I I continue to hear the same thing. Even, what little I've talked to Fasusi over the last several weeks, it still feels like Oklahoma is in a really good spot. It's going to be interesting. NIL makes this thing just such a crapshoot. I was talking to somebody last night, and they were like, it's just there's just no how did they word it? There's no, for lack of a better word, there's no chivalry in recruiting anymore. There's no
No.
like it's not consistent. There's no chivalry between the coaches and the players anymore. It's what can you do for me instead of what can I do for you on with both
Yeah.
sides. And it's kind of a lost art, which makes it very hard for us to cover. Very hard for us to
Boy,
cover because
our jobs have evolved greatly.
oh my God, just in the last 4 years, it's made it so much more difficult to cover just because last second changes are so much more the norm. When it was a big deal when somebody would go on the television after everybody thought that guy was going to Alabama and they pulled out an LSU hat. Right? That was a big deal when that happened. Now it's just like, okay, well, they just got bought. That's into and everybody used to think that, but now you know it. It's out there in the open. They got bought last second, right?
Yep.
Texas A&M with DJ Hicks, like everybody knew he was going to Oklahoma for 4 months. Dude was committed to Oklahoma. And he goes up on national television because 15 minutes before he goes up there, A&M throws a bag of cash at him and a car and everything. And there it is. He's going to A&M. And
Yeah.
no, it's not illegal. That's the thing. It's not illegal. They did what they had to do to close that thing out. So that's where the whole Fasusi thing comes is kind of a not so much with Babalola, right? Like Babalola isn't NIL will make a difference, but it's not the end all with him.
No.
Far from
No.
the end all with him. He is a different breed of cat. He comes from a medical family with doctors. He's different. He's different. Fasusi is flat out will tell you, like, it's not about NIL completely, but it's going to make a difference. This dude came
And
over with his family, right? He's
well,
not
and I
originally from
think
America.
yeah, and I think the similarity between the Fasusi and Babalola recruitments is there's gonna be a reckoning at some point for both of those guys, at which they're going to have to decide, are they going to cut against the grain and be willing to forego the biggest bag? That's a question I guess that every recruit has to ask themselves, because they're going to have reasons to commit to several different schools in some cases, but there's always going to be the one school that offers you the most money. And is it worth it to look past some of the flaws and imperfections that you perceive in the fit at that particular school for the sake of the additional cash flow that it's going to create? And there's not a blanket answer to that question.
No.
It varies circumstantially, but that's what both Fasusi and Babalola and really any elite offensive tackle prospect, any elite prospect at any position these days is going to be faced with. We have another
Mhm.
super chat from Robert Gonzalez, who asks, and actually, you know what? Bill Beach threw us $20. No question, just threw us $20. Thanks, Bill.
Appreciate you,
Very
Bill.
kind of
Thank you
you.
so much.
But Robert Gonzalez chipped in $5 and asked broad recruiting questions. What are the differences in rules and guidelines between an OV and an unofficial visit? What do those
Hmm.
differences look like for OU visitors? Yeah. Well,
Well, you want to go with that one?
yeah, I mean it's pretty simple. Like an
Hmm.
OV is on the school's dime and an unofficial visit is on the recruit's dime. And so obviously,
You can't wear the
if
uniforms anymore on unofficials, though.
yes, you cannot take photos in the uniforms on unofficial visits. Or I should say you don't have to. Like the school doesn't or no, I guess the school is prevented from conducting
Yeah,
photo
it's
shoots on
it's against the
unofficial
rules
visits.
now. Yeah.
So um that's the simplest point of delineation between the two, Robert, is an official visit is on the school's dime, so they're going to roll out the red carpet for you. They're going to get the most bang for their buck. They're going to make sure you feel loved, you feel valued, you feel invested in. And there's a limit. I believe the limit is 48 hours that you can be on campus for an official visit. If you're on an unofficial visit, again, you're spending your own money to make that happen. So there's really no limitations on how long you can be on campus and what you can and can't do at that point.
Yeah.
Unofficial
Um,
visits have a lot less structure. Official visits, because they are on the school's dime and thus regulated by the NCAA, are very structured.
mhm. What's your third biggest question?
My third biggest question is, are there any surprises in the secondary?
Mhm.
And I guess that question is more exclusive to cornerback than safety, or I should say the secondary as a whole. It's more exclusive to cornerback because I think we all expect that the top safeties are going to be, and the three guys that you're going to see the most of at safety are Robert Spears Jennings, Peyton Bowe, and Billy Bowman. Like those are your three dogs back there. Those
Mhm.
guys are going to between them account for probably 95% of the snaps that are taken at the safety spot. There probably won't be a time where one of those three guys is, or at least one of those three guys is not on the field. Um, but cornerback is going to be interesting to me because, look, we know Woody Washington is a mainstay. We know Gentry Williams is a mainstay. Beyond that, it's murky and not necessarily in the sense that you don't really know who can play. It's just there are guys in that cornerback group that I don't know if I don't know if there's a public understanding yet of just how much they can play. For instance, I was talking to a source earlier this evening, said flat out, I'll bet you Eli Bowen gets more reps this fall than Des Malone. Des Malone's a fifth-year senior and was an all-Mountain West guy at San Diego State. Eli Bowen's a true freshman. So, especially with this freshman class, man, we've heard good things about Devon Jordan. We've heard some great things at times about Eli Bowen. Jacoby Johnson is going to be heavy in the mix. And then the guy that I think so many folks tend to forget about is Jeremiah Newcomb because
Mhm.
he committed early, stayed out of the spotlight. If you go back to signing day, though, and a bunch of the
Ooh.
content that we kicked out last December on signing day, one of the guys that I really tried to highlight because I think his ceiling is so, so high is Jeremiah Newcomb. That dude's a dog of a football player. And from the time he was a freshman down at Castile High School in Queen Creek, Arizona, all he was doing was dudes down,
Mhm.
locking dudes down. Outstanding football pedigree, very technically proficient. If you see him on the field during SEC play this fall, it will not shock me. And we don't know how he's going to look in fall camp yet, but I think there's enough in the toolbox there that's similar to a Josiah Wagner last year, for instance. He could end up making an early impact even when he's, on signing day. He's not necessarily the guy that people are looking at in that position group and going, yep, that's a day one type dude.
Yeah, to me, it's more. I know there's questions about, I guess, just overall experience with some of the defensive cornerbacks in general. But the things we hear about Devon Jordan, even like you said, Jeremiah Newcomb, we've heard such good things about those two since they have arrived on campus all summer. It was those two are showing out. Those two are making plays in 7-on-7, but yada yada yada. Um, I guess I don't really worry about it too much because I feel like the back end of that defense is just because there's so much experience before you even get to those guys that it feels like you shouldn't have any problems back there, particularly at safety. Like I just feel like right safety, Woody Washington. I know the cheetah position, you should feel pretty good about Kendall Dolby, right? And then
Oh,
Peyton
yeah.
Bowen coming down there and playing some there. Obviously Reggie Powers, Michael Boganowski can play there. They've got it. They've got some talent there, even if it's some of it's inexperience. You got talent, and so to me, that's where you don't work. I do want to see what a bigger, stronger version of Gentry Williams looks like.
That's going to be a
Like he's
bad
always,
man.
yeah, he's always been in that 160 between 160 169 range. I want to see what he looks like now at like they said he's like 192. Like what does that look like? Like
Mhm.
what does that look like? I mean, it just it kind of is it's crazy to me to think about that because he was dominant until he hurt his shoulder last year. Like literally, wasn't he like one of the top two or three people with interceptions last year at that point before he injured it, right? Post Texas, he was way up there.
Gentry Williams at 192, fully healthy, is going to be a force.
Yeah, I think so.
Like, could be one of the best cornerbacks in the entire SEC and maybe the entire country.
Yeah.
We have another super chat from Jacob Matthews who says, "Hey guys, love the show. I've been watching some old games and the jump around game stood out to me. How close are we to having the all around team and atmosphere like that?" Well, I
Pretty
think you'll
close.
get your answer on September 21st, Jacob, when Oklahoma hosts Tennessee. Because I, if you can't get up for game one as an SEC program, first home game
Josh
as an
Heupel.
SEC program against Josh Heupel and a Tennessee team that is likely to be ranked top 15, if not top 10 at that point, then I don't know what's wrong with you. And look, I understand, and I expect that the atmospheres at Owen Field are going to get better because, quite frankly, the crowds got stale as the slate got stale over
Yep.
the years for Oklahoma. When you became used to dominance against the likes of Texas Tech and Baylor and West Virginia in the Big 12, there seemed to be less incentive to show up and watch a football game. And that's why I've tried never to be too critical of the fan base in general for the atmosphere on game days. The one group I will be critical of, and unashamedly so, is the student section because
But we want you all to sign up.
no, we do, but like there's no excuse for the student section to be lax at the University of Oklahoma. Look, you go to the University of Oklahoma, right? You get blue blood football. How many? You'd say there are what, 7, 8 blue bloods in the nation. You go to a blue blood school, do your part to make sure that the blue blood atmosphere is present, and be grateful for what you have while you have it, because college goes by quick, man. College goes by really quick. So yeah, I'll give the student section a good ribbon from time to time, but on the whole, I try not to be overly critical of the entire fan base because I get it. Like, do you have a ton of incentive to show up on a chilly mid-November afternoon and watch a game against Iowa State where it's 25 degrees outside? I understand if you'd rather stay home and watch that game on your TV. Like, I get that. But in the SEC, I mean, you look at the home games this year, Tennessee, South Carolina, Alabama. Yeah, the Palace ought to be rocking for
Yeah,
all of those games. There's no excuse for it not to be.
it should be really fun. Bill Beach with another. Thank you so much, man. $20. He asked, is a D worth 2 extra wins versus national media folks' expectations? That is my gut. I
Can I be honest, Bill? I don't think that boils down to the defense.
yeah,
I think the guy whose shoulders that question sits on is Jackson Arnold.
correct.
Like, Jackson Arnold, and it feels real simplistic, almost too easy to say that the fate of the season rides on quarterback play, because it is a little bit more nuanced than that. And you could get average quarterback play from Jackson Arnold and still win 9-10 games if the defense is really good. But the guy that has the potential to elevate this Oklahoma team from a competitor in the SEC to a contender is Jackson Arnold. If Jackson Arnold is one of the top 10 quarterbacks in America, then Oklahoma is going to have a ton of success because we know what they have on defense. We know what they're going to be capable of on that side of the ball. We know what Gavin Sawchuk is capable of out of the backfield. We know the weapons that Jackson Arnold has been gifted in the passing game. So if he's making the proper decisions with the football, keeping the ball out of harm's way, taking shots where he needs to take shots, being discerning with where and how he throws the ball, and is commanding an offense that is both efficient and effective, Oklahoma is going to be a really difficult team to stop.
Yeah. Well, I guess my overall thought on that is I think the defense can get you 1 win, but I think if you're looking for multiple wins, your quarterback, we've seen it. If you're an Oklahoma fan, you've seen it. A great quarterback can win you double-digit ball games. An elite quarterback can get you to the playoffs. That's where the defense will come in. So I think there's what fans are asking makes sense, but I think you're looking at it from the wrong lens a little bit. I think regular season, a quarterback can win you a lot of ball games. And yeah, they did that in the Big 12. I get it. But what happened when elite quarterbacks went up against an SEC defense? There's your answer. Because Baker put up 46 points and or 48 points and still lost. Still lost. So I think you got to flip it. Regular season quarterback means probably a little bit more than defense unless you're playing against Alabama or, those type of teams. And it comes down to big moments, like tight moments in a ball game. Outside of that, I feel like Jackson Arnold in his arm, and even then in a tight ball game, you need that quarterback to be elite to win that. So
Yeah.
they kind of go hand in hand. But one thing I will say is that regular season, I would probably lean more, like Parker said, is on the offensive side of the ball with Jackson Arnold. We got another uh we have a super chat. Todd Donnan, appreciate you. $10. Thank you so
Thanks,
much. Nothing
Todd.
was said. Just
Yeah.
$10.
Just
Appreciate you.
$10. Hey, and it's his very first
It is,
contribution.
man.
So thanks for joining the
Keep
party.
yeah, keep contributing.
The
So
the
I'll give
point
you my
Well, the
last.
point, yeah, no,
Go
no,
ahead.
to close the loop there,
Go
Brandon,
ahead.
the
Yeah.
last point I'll make on that whole conversation is look at LSU last year. They had one of the most putrid defenses in all of college football. They still won 9 games
Yep.
because Jaden Daniels was outstanding. Now,
Correct.
I'm not saying Jackson Arnold's going to win the Heisman, and I don't think he needs to, but LSU, with one of the worst defenses in college football last year, still won 9 games in the SEC, mind you, because they had outstanding quarterback play.
Hmm.
If Jackson Arnold is half the quarterback that Jaden Daniels was in 2023, Oklahoma's going to win a lot of football games because Oklahoma's defense will be 10 times the defense
Yep.
that LSU's was in 2023.
Look, there's some people saying, remember Bama took it to Kyler. It was hard to watch. They got up 28-0 because of a fumble, right? If I remember correctly. And the offensive line, it wasn't Kyler, it was the offensive line struggled to start because they weren't used to what Bama was doing to him defensively. The second Oklahoma got situated with that offensive line, Kyler cooked. I mean, were you in the press box or were you on the field that game?
Which game was that now? Which game are you
The
talking about?
OU Alabama game, the Orange Bowl.
The Orange Bowl? I
I think
was
you were
down
on
at
the
field
field.
level.
So in the stand, Feinbaum and a couple other guys, national guys, were sitting about 3 or 4 seats down from me. And as OU was making that run and they kept stopping Alabama, and then Tyler would go down and score. I think it got to almost like 7 points, right? At some point, did it get to 7 or was it like
I
10?
don't think it ever got to
It
single
was 10,
digits.
right? It got to 10,
No.
right? When
It
they
might have
got to
gotten to
10 and,
11.
and Oklahoma had the ball, like if they went down, they scored, there was going to be like a 3-point game, if I remember correctly. They were all sitting around going, "Oh my God, this is why this dude won the Heisman right here. Like this dude is elite. Nobody's done this to Alabama's defense." So, and obviously Quentin Williams was hurt a lot of that game. They kind of put him out, and that changed what Alabama was doing defensively. But that it was awful to start, but as the game went on, Kyler got his rhythm, and it was really good. Um, I guess my second to last big deal burning question heading into fall camp is Javonte Barnes, Caleb
Yeah.
Hicks, or Taylor Tatum. Who you got? Because I'm leaning towards Taylor Tatum.
That's where the buzz is right now.
Yeah, but I talked to somebody yesterday, and they're like, if you sleep on Javonte Barnes, you're crazy.
Yeah,
That
and that's
dude,
kind of my thing is
yeah,
like everybody see the Javonte Barnes that's stuck in everybody's minds is the 2023
it's
Javonte
exactly
Barnes
what
that
I
didn't
told
have
him.
a fifth gear. He didn't have a fifth gear because he wasn't healthy. The Javonte Barnes that people seem to forget about is the 2022 Javonte Barnes.
Mhm.
That dude was that dude was a problem.
Yeah. He had no patience. He still doesn't have patience. I think that's his biggest. And a person said the same thing. He lacks patience when
Yeah.
running the ball. Everything with Javonte Barnes is 90-0. Like balls to the wall. There was no patience. They said that Taylor Tatum is a Gavin Sawchuk clone.
Yep.
Not the most physical freshman, and Sawchuk wasn't either until the end of his freshman year. And that's why he played in the bowl game. That's what held him out of playing because they wanted him to add weight and strength and get tougher between the tackles and he proved that he could do that in the Cheez Bowl. They think that Tatum is a little bit thicker, a little bit more apt to go between the tackles, but he's not there yet. And that could be where they feel like there's going to be a package for Taylor Tatum. And that as the season goes on, that package will get, and I know this sounds super dirty for you perverts out there, that package will get bigger and bigger and bigger. That I now I can't even stop thinking about it. The joke.
That's Brandon's kind of joke right there.
Golly, man. Oh man. All right. Slapstick comedy.
Moving on.
Yeah, there we go.
Moving on. But yeah, no, I think that'll be a real interesting one to track because Gavin Sawchuk's the starter. Nobody questions that. But who's RB2? It's open season right now between Hicks and Sam Franklin and Javonte Barnes and Taylor Tatum. I still give the benefit of the doubt to Barnes, but we'll see. Taylor Tatum is earning a lot of positive reviews internally so far. Last thing for me is, can you get it? Can you figure out, can you find somebody that can kick the ball through the uprights consistently? Because Brent Venables said last week, Tyler Keltner is the odds-on favorite to be your starting place kicker. And you know what? If that's
didn't he miss the last time we saw him? Didn't he miss a field goal?
He did miss a field goal in the spring game. Yes.
Oh, man.
He's also, I believe, a career 76% kicker, which is higher than Zach Schmidt's career mark of 74%. Neither one inspires a ton of confidence. So if Tyler Keltner is leaps and bounds more precise and more effective than the Tyler Keltner that kicked for 4 years at East Tennessee State before his brief stop over last year at FSU, then great. But if not, you might see Liam Evans before the season's over, because I don't know what other option you have at that point. You got to figure out the kicker situation, because little mistakes will get magnified in the SEC more so than they have in years past in the Big 12. And moreover, if you leave points on the field, that will come back to bite you.
Yeah. All right. So my biggest question, well, you kind of took it with the special team, so I'm going to go a different direction. How many freshmen are they actually going to play this year? Like that to me is interesting. And is Dominic Williams going to be the game changer that we all expect him to be? And I think that defensively, particularly on the defensive line, will be very, very important, because obviously you have Dominic Williams there, but you also have David Stone and Jaden Jackson. Everybody's talking about Danny Okoye. Everybody's been talking about, right? Off the edge. You have Caden Woolard, who by all accounts has very high expectation from the staff. You want to know who, man, I just went blank on the, yeah. You want to know who they think has a chance to be just downright special? And nobody talks about him, but I talked to somebody associated with the defensive line and defensive end spots, and they pointed this kid out. Who do you think it is? Like, nobody talks about this kid.
I think you're referring to Taylor Wine.
Well done, Parker. Yes. And there is some high expectations from people inside the program with that dude. They think that kid has a chance to be downright special. Like, they think he can play this year. They said he may not be that special player this year, but he'll make some plays. They said by the time he leaves, he could have transformed that defense. And I take that with hyperbole a little bit, right?
Sure. Yeah.
Quite a bit of hyperbole. But I don't think the person that was telling me that was like trying to over exaggerate what he could become. I think they truly believe that he has a chance to be Ethan Downs with more stats, I guess would be the way to put it. And if you can get that, if you can get a guy that gets 7 or 8 sacks off the edge, are you kidding me?
Yeah, no, if Taylor
Who's going to
Wine is
hate
the
on
next
that?
Ethan Downs, I have no qualms with that, nor should anyone.
I don't think anybody would have a problem with that. You get 5 sacks a year from a dude, and he leads the SEC in tackles for losses the way Downs did two
Well,
years in a row.
and the way
In
I
the
look
Big
at it
12.
too is if you can get 5 sacks out of Taylor Wine,
Yeah,
given
yeah.
the other talent that you have.
The guy that you took because somebody else left late in the
Yep.
process. How lucky are you if that hits?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, wow. And you watch his high school film and you're like, okay, it tracks. He was a bad man. And he played for a really good program against
Yep.
really good competition in Tennessee. So, like, I guess how many of those guys going to play? Michael Boganowski, right? Reggie Powers, Devon Jordan, um, Jeremiah Newcomb. Like, we hear all these things. I want to know. I want to see what they do. I want to see what Zion Raggins does because, again, yesterday I was told there is nobody that can cover that dude in 7-on-7. He
Mm-hmm.
is uncoverable, they said.
Mm-hmm.
That is like the 20th person that's told me that. So he has to be doing something absurd. And some pads get put on and they can get physical with you. That
He's
things
only
change.
145
Yeah,
pounds. That's the asterisk right
exactly.
there. Like,
Yep.
yes, yes, the word has been unanimously that kid might be the fastest dude that OU has rostered in the 21st century. I mean, crazy, crazy speed.
And you have
But
Gentry Williams and Brennan Thompson on this team.
I know, like that's
And
the
Gavin
thing too, is
Salcha,
you got some
indoor
track
60-meter
dudes.
national record.
Yeah, you got some track dudes on this roster, and Zion Reagans is still blowing
Jaden
everybody away
Rowe.
with his speed. So I think he needs to pack on weight because you're not going to play consistently at the P4 level if you are 145 pounds. He needs to get up in that 160 range before he's ready to be utilized on a more regular basis. But even in his current state, man, I think he could be a really fun gadget player, be a really fun special teams dude, or even a guy. And I know you still have Brendan Thompson on the roster. I think Brendan Thompson will probably get a little bit more run than he did last year, especially because
Yeah.
he's going to be fully healthy, you'd presume. But if Zion Reagans is the guy that you put on the field for 3 snaps a game and take one shot to every single game, then yeah, there's some fun possibilities there.
Yeah. I guess one last one, and I think it's one that it's going to hit home for you and for me. Like it's a more special for you than me, just because you've been touting this guy longer than I have. But I think OU Insider like was the kings of this guy should be a 5-star. PJ Adewara has got. Is he going to be the person, the player? Well, he's the person. Is he going to be the player we all expected him to be when he arrived? He had 2 sacks last year as a freshman in limited time, but they were meaningful sacks. One versus Cincinnati, I think the other one, I can't remember who it was against. Tulsa in meaningful playing time, right? And so, but he also had a bunch of QB hurries. He did things last year that helped Oklahoma win ball games.
And he was playing high leverage situations too.
Yeah. But is he going to be that guy? 261 now. He's not 240 anymore. He's put on 20 pounds. Is he going to be that guy? Does he still have that first step? Is he more technically sound than he was? Is he less raw? I think big questions. We'll know more after fall camp and we get to hear, this dude's making this play, that play. We kind of expected R. Mason Thomas to be that guy last year, but he had both of his ankles just went to crap on him. But when he played in the Alamo Bowl, he was that dude. I want to see that fully. I just want the edge rushers to do what they were supposed to do this year. Because Ethan Downs was really the only one that produced last year. I think that's a fair statement, right?
Yeah, you didn't get much from Rondell Bothroyd, that's for sure.
No. And he was a superstar at Wake Forest. That was the weirdest thing. So there's a lot. Those are my burning questions going into fall camp.
Yeah. Well, we've used up an hour.
Yeah. All right, guys.
We hit all the super chats.
We did. Thank you guys for the super chats, by the way. That was amazing. We thank you guys.
We love you all.
Yes, we like answering your questions. We try to get even to the ones that aren't super chat, but there's like the thing just go. You should see it from our angle. Like it's 1,000 miles an hour while we're trying to talk too. So we miss things and stuff. That's why the super chat, we don't, it could be 99 cents. Like we don't care, but it helps us answer your questions because it pops up and like goes right to the top and it stays there for us to see. So, anyways, thank you guys for watching this version of the OU Insider Under the Visor YouTube Live. If you're not a member of OU Insider and you're a college student, it doesn't matter what university you go to, you're a college student, email us at ouinsider@rivals.com. At ouinsider at rivals.com. It's just ouinsider@rivals.com. We will send you a code. That way you can sign up for $11.95 and get a whole year on us. A whole year. That is $88 less than the actual price. So we're trying to give you a massive, basically you get 90% off, essentially is what you just get. And that's a big deal. And we're trying to get you guys to be able to sign up because we understand time's tough when you're a college student. It sucks. We want you to sign up. So make sure you email us. It's ouinsider@rivals.com and we will email you back. I've already sent back, I think it was total of 17 today. 17 total emails today, college students signing up for that. There are already 11. I've gotten feedback from them through email. They love it. They love the content. Make sure you sign up. If you're not, if you're an adult and you're not in college, don't worry. The promos will happen throughout the year. They always do. But if you want to get in right now, just give us a try. Just give us a try. $9.95 a month or $99.95 for the whole year. If you want to just give us a try, it's $9.95 for the whole month. It's cheap. You basically go to Starbucks coffee. You can get OU Insider for a whole month. You'll get recruiting. You'll get team stuff, fall camp. We get to talk to the players tomorrow. So you'll get that. We'll have a lot of information from that, takeaways from that. We will also have Brent Venables on Saturday. While you guys are doing Meet the Players, or before Meet the Players, we get to go talk to Brent Venables. We will have that for you as well. Lots of takeaways, lots of stuff. And we're going to get practice viewings. Parker can vouch for this. They're awesome. Sometimes we get up to an hour and 45 minutes of practice in like a 2.5 hour session. They'll send us out when they really get into some deep scheme stuff, but we get to watch some of the scheme stuff that they do and a lot of practice. And we do observations. Who's playing? Who's injured? Who's not out there? Who's doing this? Who's doing that? It'll all be over there on OU Insider VIP. All of the recruiting stuff. I just put up notes on 4 Rivals 126 targets that Oklahoma has coming back for a game. 4. 3 of them are defensive linemen. Just throwing that out there for you guys. That information's over there on OU Insider VIP. Parker has a bunch of stuff from the Sooners on the Stars, just like I did this past weekend. It's all over there, OU Insider VIP. Brody Lusk has basketball notes, like what's going on in basketball right now, not just recruiting, but team stuff. They're basketball notes. Like, dude is killing it. He's the master of all basketball stuff. We have that. Jesse, Brian, they have all their team stuff as well going on over there at OU Insider VIP. And then we also have Damian Mackey. He's going to do his 10 things from now on. It'll be on OU Insider VIP. Post-game stuff from Damian Mackey, former OU wide receiver, national champ, all going to be on over OU Insider VIP. And we've also got Barry, who does these breakdowns of all the recruits. He and Brian do a fantastic job of that. So all that's OU Insider VIP. Great stuff. $9.95 a month. $9.95 will get you the whole year. Also, YouTube, subscribe, hit that like, hit that notification button. Make sure anytime we drop a daily video, which we do, it'll be right here on YouTube for you, or whatever podcast platform you listen to us. Subscribe. Make sure you're ready, downloaded, all that. Make sure every time we drop a podcast, whether it's us, whether it's the Oklahoma Drill, whether it's Barry and Mac, it doesn't matter. In the paint, you get it on whatever platform you have, YouTube, Spotify, Apple, Google, whatever. You get it right there. All right. For Parker Thune, for Spencer Forsythe, my name's Brandon Drumm. You guys have a blessed day.